Hello there, friends and sane persons. Welcome to another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. My name is Kyle, and whether it's your first time or not, Wednesday Whimsy is a short show I do every Wednesday evening, usually around 7 o'clock Eastern U.S. time, where I talk about a board game convention, sometimes, a top 10, or some other topic that I find interesting at the moment. I'm going to see if I can. I guess that's not going to help. All right, so today we are talking about something big and something different than what I usually talk about, which is a game that's come out recently called Jurassic World: Legacy of Isla Nublar. So let me show you here. I've got the box here, and it is quite the production, and we are going to talk about that here in a minute. But here is the box. Oh, this big old box with a big old dinosaur on it. So if you're not familiar with it, Jurassic Park is a series of, I guess, a couple of books and some movies about dinosaurs in an amusement park that get out and wreak havoc. And honestly, that's kind of what this game is about. Well, sort of. So in this game, you are going to take the role of a number of characters. You're going to play usually 11 rounds. So there's 10 scenarios, and there's one prologue tutorial scenario, but there's 10 basic scenarios and one finale. And so you're going to play through. You'll take the role of a character in each scenario, and it can be a different character in each scenario. That's not really a spoiler here. I will warn there might be some small spoilers. I'm not going to try to blow the game for anyone, but it's difficult to talk about a legacy-style game without talking about some of the things that happen in it. So just be aware of that. If you are concerned about that in any way, well, just don't watch this video. Anyway, so you're going to, and then what you're going to do is in each scenario, the board is going to change in some way. Things are going to change from game to game. Maybe some things get better, maybe some things get worse. And the decisions you make, ideally, are going to be long-lasting and impact sort of your holistic gaming experience. So that's kind of how it works. And then this is set, of course, in the world of Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. So that's kind of what it's about. And it's going to be a bit of a weird one to talk about, but let's kind of talk about how it works. So the first thing you have here, and this will have some spoilers because this is our final board from the game, but I actually do want to show it because it's very different from what you start the game with. You'll see, we have this island here, and I'll show you sort of a starting island in a moment, but you see there's all these stickers that go on the board, and these are the various buildings we've placed out, different dinosaurs we've discovered, infrastructure improvements such as roads and fences, and that's kind of how the board develops. Also, we have a Jurassic World here. I guess it starts with Jurassic Park because it's going to kind of start before any of the movies do, and kind of grow up from there. And so let me put this here for a moment. There we go. So let's kind of switch to the screen share here. And on the screen share, I'm going to show you some pictures of the game. Let's see if we can actually find one of the board. So this is sort of the board as you play it. Let's add it here. And you'll see, this is kind of the basic board that you start the game with. It has 4 dinosaurs and a couple of cards. So each game is going to be 5 rounds. You're going to open a scenario book, and the scenario book is going to give you sort of the story of what's happening, usually in a comic book panel or two. And then it will tell you it'll walk you through the setup instructions. It'll say, choose a character, and these are the 5 that you can choose from. As you go through the scenario, you're going to get different, let's see if I can show this here. You're going to get different, maybe I'll come down from this so we can actually see. You're going to get different bonuses. So whether you win or lose a scenario, you'll scratch off something, and that will unlock something here. And then you're going to get some budgetary units that you can use essentially to put extra stickers on the board to kind of try and improve your park. After that, you're going to choose, you've got your characters, you're going to set up a number of rounds, and the rounds could be, these legacy red round cards, or they could be other things, like here we see a blue dinosaur card. Let me see if I can zoom in here because that might be a little bit easier to see there. So like here's a blue dinosaur card, and these dinosaur cards are going to activate some special ability of a dinosaur. So each round, you're going to put out 6 of these sector cards, and these are going to explain what the dinosaurs do. And then you're going to have a number of actions. In the game, there were 9 action tokens total. And so I played it 2-player all the way through with my friend, and we each had 4 actions, and then there was one kind of a group action. And the group action would be, it could be used by anybody. So there's no real turns. It's not like your pandemic type of a game. It is a cooperative game, though, so you're working together. But you're just going to say, well, I'll do these 2 actions, and then maybe, you can do something to help me out. And each of these round cards is going to give you some kind of a scenario. I would say on 95% of them, it was some bad thing. Something that if you did not do it in this particular round, you would suffer a consequence. And the consequences are these tokens up here. You can kind of see over here. That's these sort of warning symbols, and on the back of those is a number from 0 to 2, and when the total value of them is 5 or higher, you lose the game immediately. So, and the way you win the game is you survive all 5 of these action rounds, and then there's always some sort of goals that you had to do in the game. And let me tell you a little bit about these goals. I will not consider this to be a major spoiler because this is really what you're doing the whole game. Is a lot of what you've got to do is move your characters to these buildings where you're then going to essentially do some slide puzzles. So every round there's this sort of visitor center type thing, and in it you're going to be taking a token from one of these boxes and pushing something in a different direction. And then you're trying to line up 3 of a kind of different colors. Those will clear out. Maybe in this round you have to line up 3 reds, in another round 3 reds and 2 purples, and 3 purples. And then you're going to move around in this building because each space in this building lets you push from a different direction. So that's usually one of the goals, is going to be some manipulation of this kind of 3 in a row game here. There's always also a genetic puzzle. So there's going to be 4 different symbols out here. There's a GATC, and there's 2 of each of them. And in the scenario book, it will tell you have to make these 2 sequences at the same time, or these 2 sequences at different times. Essentially, you make those 2, you make whatever it is, you say, hooray, I did it, you check off a box, and you've completed that objective. And then later in the game, there's a third one, which has these little wire things on it, and you are like swapping one wire to another, and you're trying to connect different symbols to other symbols through an unbroken path. So a lot of the game is going to be, you doing these slide puzzles. And again, the 2 slide puzzles that I talked about here, those are in the prologue, and then the third one comes in, I don't know, scenario 5-ish or so. It eventually comes out, and it's a new thing, but it's really, it sticks with you for the rest of the game. There's also a possibility over time that power can go out, and there are tokens in sometimes when you flip up these cards, it will say, well, this affects the power. When power goes out, nothing works. You've got electric fences, but they don't work anymore. I mean, they're still fences, but they no longer zap the dinosaurs. And all of these buildings don't work anymore. And so there's a 4th mini game where you kind of go into this room, and there are some tokens, and you flip them in the air. And if they land with one side face up, you get a certain number of those. And then you say, aha, I've repowered the park. And once it's repowered, it won't power down again. So that's kind of the 4th mini game. And those 4 mini games are a big, major, brontosaurus size portion of this game. You're going to be doing those mini games with some kind of a theme pasted on them each round. And when I say that, I'm actually being very, very little, right? The book will say, let's see, I think I have a scenario book here. So it will say, we are looking to find which dinosaur ate the pilot. And so we've got to do some analysis of its DNA. And by making these 2 sequences, we find which dinosaur ate the pilot. That's a scene from the 3rd Jurassic Park movie. And each of the scenarios is going to walk you through some portion of one of the movies, I assume, because I have not seen all of the movies. I've seen the first 3 Jurassic Park movies and then the first Jurassic World And I still haven't seen the last two, but maybe I'll change that. But so they're going to walk you through some sort of that. Different characters will show up. But essentially, that's it. You're going to do the 3 mini games. Sometimes there's some other objective, like, I don't know, move the T-Rex to zone 17. Sometimes there's collect people and move them to different areas or have them in different parts of the park. There's one where there's some baby triceratops that need to go into a certain building, things like that. So you complete sort of your 3 mini game objectives, the power one at some point because you have to, and then whatever else the cards are telling you. If you make it to the end of round 5 without triggering the end game, which again is by getting 5 consequences, you win. If not, you lose, and then you will mark off. And then there's usually there's a research thing on the other side of this where you're going to get research points that you can use to scratch off these projects. When you scratch them off, they're going to unlock various bonuses. They could make dinosaurs live a little bit longer, give them a little bit more defense. They could let you unlock your character's special abilities. A variety of things you can do. And you're just kind of do this sort of process for 11 games. Now, I won't say that all 11 games are exactly the same. Some have some twists and turns in them. But for the most part, that's what it is. It's 3 mini games, a couple of objectives, and a couple of these bad things, these red legacy cards, which say, do something this turn or suffer a consequence. And when you're all done with that, well, you total up your points. There's a calculation method that's provided. You get your score, you read your ending, and you have survived Jurassic World, A Legacy of Isla Nublar. So, I will say the final scenario, the finale, it says, you can replay it endlessly. So it gives you a way to sort of upgrade some things, put a couple things out, change a couple of small pieces, and then you can play one final scenario as many times as you like. And that is the Legacy of Isla Nublar. Let's talk about what makes it special. Now, I'm going to be honest. I have some very mixed thoughts about this game. And I'm going to talk about what both the good things and the bad here. The first thing I'm going to say that makes it special is it looks fantastic. I mean, the joke is spared no expense. They spared no expense to make some portions of this game just fantastic. I kind of showed you, I guess I didn't show, but each scenario is this nice kind of old school comic book. And it has this nice old school comic booky art. It's got, usually some comic panels that are going to be really interesting. This is from the prologue, so this one's definitely not a spoiler for you. And it just really looks like a nice production. I had it through the Kickstarter, and so it came with some really nice extra components that, were these sort of action tokens, which are nice, painted wood, really nice to handle. And then there's these research tokens, which are these cute little amber droplets that are filled with a mosquito, just kind of like from Jurassic Park, right? They found the mosquitoes in the amber. Those are kind of nice. There are, reminder tokens. The dice are nice engraved dice. It's just really a good production on a lot of these pieces. And then the different dinosaurs that you get, like here I've got a Stegosaurus. Spoiler, there's a Stegosaurus in the game. They're these nice sort of mover pieces that are just nice, high quality, heavy, firm plastic. It comes with, one for each dinosaur. We've got, there's a T-Rex that's kind of breaking through things. I kind of think this is the T-Rex. Yeah, that's not the T-Rex. That's something else. You sort of have to, here's the Dilophosaurus or whatever it is, right? That's, they've got nice action poses. I saw online that someone had painted them. Let's see if I can find them. They really looked fantastic when they were painted up. Here you can see somebody's gone through the trouble of painting them, and they just look really good. But even unpainted, they're very clear. There's red ones and green ones for carnivores and herbivores. And there's just a real lot to love in the production. Another thing that's kind of special about it is the story. Now, the story has very little impact on the game, I will say that. It's not like you really feel you're playing through a story, but there's a lot of effort sort of done in helping you experience each and every chapter of the Jurassic Park franchise. And they say, okay, we're going to recreate. I'd already talked about the third movie where the kid goes parasailing and gets stuck on the island. There's the right characters show up, and some of the events are kind of things from the movie, and some of the dinosaurs. Okay, there's a Spinosaurus, and it has a special role in that movie. There's a lot of effort that was put into the story. And although it doesn't always come through in the gameplay, it definitely feels like there was a lot done there. Even the box, right? I mean, it's a nice quality box. It has this super high, fancy sleeve that looks like a dinosaur is breaking through. Just a lot of love was put into this. Also, the learn to play aspect of the game was pretty good. You sort of start with the rule book, and it says, okay, set up these things. Now go to the tutorial book and read these pages, and then start playing. And then when you get to this, sort of come here and see what happens. It was pretty easy to learn the rules. And so that was another good thing. So those are sort of some things that made the game special and really stand out. And now we're going to talk about some of the negative things. Where's the but? So I told you about really good production on some of the pieces. However, the ones that did not come with the Kickstarter, sort of the generic tokens, the versions of these action tokens that aren't the Kickstarter ones, they're the cheapest of thin cardboard. I mean, they're really bad. And then these tokens, these mosquito tokens, are these little cheap plastic, little flimsy cardboard chits. The non Kickstarter version really suffers on a couple of areas. Now, generally, the card quality is not very good. I'll just say that. It's just pretty lousy card quality. And the figures are kind of little cheap cardboard standees that you just put in a mover. They're functional. The stickers are nice, but everything else, I don't know. I would say some of the production, whereas they spared no expense on some aspects, sort of the big memorable ones, there's a lot of small, fine details that I don't know that I wish they had paid a little bit more attention and been a little bit more consistent throughout. Another negative, and this is really a big one, is that the game isn't all that interesting. Now, I said I enjoyed the story, but what you're doing, I mean, if you think it's kind of like somebody was sitting down and said, what's the most interesting thing about Jurassic Park? And somebody said, a slide puzzle. Because that's really what you're doing. A whole big portion of the game, 80% of what you're doing, is going to be manipulating these 3 slide puzzle mini games, and they're not that much fun. It's like I was the whole time thinking, okay, we've got this, we've done this for a few times. Let's have something new come out. And eventually, when we changed from Jurassic Park to Jurassic World, which is about halfway through the game, eventually we kind of did, except really all they did was make the puzzles a little bit more cumbersome. They added some more pieces and changed the layout a bit. But the 3 puzzles were still there. Still there. And also this storm thing that happens every game is just so tedious. It's like, okay, we know we're going to have to waste at least 3 or 4 actions, which is one player's full turn for one round, to go in, park somebody in this building, and have him, flip the coins, hope he gets lucky, put them in this area. Now, there's some ways to mitigate it. You can get items that refresh your actions, or there are some bonus characters you can train up that can help you if you move with them. You can save a couple of actions that way, but really, you're gonna spend a lot of time doing these mini games, and the mini games are just really not all that great. And this storm is just so punishing for no reason, and there's no way you can change it. After the storm rules start, which is, I think, scenario 2, every scenario, it's guaranteed the storm's going to happen. And so you just kind of got to wait for it and do your best, be nearby the space where you have to go to fix it. But it's just, I mean, there's nothing you can do to change it. There's no legacy aspect where you can buy the Stormwatch Tower that adds another 5 turns to the Storm Track or anything. No, none of that. Nothing you can do. Also, whereas the rules were easy to learn, some of them were not easy to process. Like there's the way the dinosaurs move and attack. We got it wrong a couple of times, but I mean, ultimately, there's kind of a chart you got to follow, and you got to be careful and make sure you're checking everything. And it can be a little bit procedural. I got it down partway through, so we were able to do it quickly. But I mean, it would be a difficult thing to pick up and learn that aspect. Also, some of the actions were difficult to remember, right? There's a way to move that's called run, and there's another way to move called lead that lets you take people. Now, run is always 2 spaces, and lead is 1 space unless you're on a road or in a building, and then it's 2 spaces, and then if you use a vehicle on a road, you can sometimes move extra spaces. There were a lot of small, finicky exceptions, and I don't know. They weren't. I don't know that those rules added enough to the experience that they were worth really having. I would have just said, okay, all movement is 2 spaces, and you can always take 2 people with you. Easy, streamline that. There's also no real way to interact with the dinosaurs, and that's a real disappointment. The one thing you can do is you can herd them, which means if you are in a space with a dinosaur and another player, not one of the bonus tokens, except sometimes, you can spend an action to sort of put this circle thing on the dinosaur and move it a space, and then it won't activate. So, but you can't fight them. You can't really do anything with them. You can't move them around unless you get the right items. There's just, you've got dinosaurs, but they're kind of there, and they're kind of there to keep things interesting and a little bit random, but you don't feel like you're running from the T-Rex, hiding from the Velociraptor, or treating the Triceratops from its illness from eating the bad berries. You just kind of feel like you're dealing with them and hoping that they don't wreck your plans. And that's kind of a disappointment for Jurassic Park. I think I forgot that special, though, is it is pretty cool later in the game when the dinosaurs start mutating. There's some rules where there's some mutation stickers you can add to dinosaurs at certain points in the game. And it says things like octopus DNA. You add it to the dinosaur, and only then, after you've mutated the thing, do you scratch it out and see what you've actually got. And I thought that was kind of fun, right? We don't know what we're going to get. That's an interesting thematic touch. Although it made them worse, and then you've got a whole bunch of dinosaurs that are just awful. Anyway, so I think out of things that are kind of butts about the gameplay is boring. The components are kind of chitsy in the middle on some of them. I guess inconsistent. And I just don't know that there's a whole lot of theme that comes through. So it seems a little bit negative, but I guess that's kind of it. So let's go on now to my final rating. Now, my final rating is a mixed bag here, right? I'm going to say I'd probably give this a 6 out of 10. 6 being, it's not a bad game. I just don't think I ever want to play it again. It was fine. I enjoyed the experience. I'm glad I had the experience. But if it had not been a legacy game, I would have played it once, put it away, and never played it again. The only reason I played it all these times was because I wanted to see where it was going to go. I wanted to give it the full chance. But now that I've played it, 11 times with my friend and 1 time by myself, kind of to learn the rules with the prologue, I think I'm done with it. And I don't know that I can recommend it to anyone. I would say if you already have a copy, go ahead and play it. You might have a good time. I did have a good time playing it. I just didn't like the game. I had a good time with the experience. Oh, another thing I forgot about a but. It takes forever to set up. Each round, there's like a huge process you go through with lots of, new things to read and set up and punch and unpunch and scratch off. And so that's kind of distracts. It's like, okay, we're going to set it up at the end of the play session so it's ready to go for tomorrow. Anyway, so I probably a 6 out of 10. It's the first time I'm doing one of these where I'm not going to say, hey, you should really try it, because I don't know who this game is for. I don't think it's for me. I think it's too simple for most gamers. I mean, it's 5 rounds of some boring mini games with a Jurassic Park theme pasted on. And I don't know that that's going to get anybody. And if it were not for the production of the nice pieces, I mean, these are so much fun. The board's so much fun. The artwork in the little scenario books is amazingly fun. It brought out this experience that was from a different game than the one we ended up playing. And I would love to play the game that was promised and not the game that was delivered. So that's why I'm saying it's a 6 out of 10. Maybe that's actually a 5. Maybe I've talked myself down into a 5 because the production of the parts that are amazing, and the parts that aren't are just really not. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Legacy of Isla Nublar. I don't recommend it. I don't think I can. I don't think I can tell people to go out and play it unless you love, capital LOVE, love Jurassic Park and Jurassic World and really want to kind of remember moments from the movie while shuffling some tiles around in a slide puzzle. Anyway, that's it for me and for Wednesday Whimsy today. It's a little fresh on my mind because we just finished it yesterday. And that's all for Legacy of Isla Nublar. And so we'll see you again next time. I thank you for joining. I wish you safe travels and courage when you need it. And I will see you next time on another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Okay, bye-bye.